Our final honorary degree recipient is an entertainment legend, native New Orleanian and today's commencement speaker, Harry Connick Jr. Reading the citation will be Cyrus Nabipur, a talented musician who graduates today magna cum laude with a degree in jazz studies.
Memories and moments of joy connect this man to the hearts of people across the world, and most dearly to those in this city. Experiencing his classic charm firsthand is truly a privilege. His talent, humor, style, and sense of tradition reflect the soul of New Orleans. Harry Connick Jr. began performing as a pianist and vocalist at the age of 5. At 18, he released his debut album under Columbia Records. He released his second not 2 years later. At 21, he became a multi-platinum sensation with the soundtrack for When Harry Met Sally. To date, he has released at least 30 albums, won 3 Grammys, 2 Emmys, and has sold over 28 million records. More than being a musician, Connick is an entertainer and an artist in any medium available to him. As an actor, he's performed in feature films and hit TV shows. His work on Broadway has brought him Tony nominations in the roles of composer, lyricist, and lead actor. He joined the panel of American Idol in season 13 through the recent final season. This fall, he will debut his nationally syndicated daytime show, Harry, which will naturally feature live music with special guests. Success and international acclaim notwithstanding, Connick has never forgotten his home. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, he, along with Branford Marsalis, created the Musicians Village in the Upper Ninth Ward, which, along with the Ellis Marsalis Center for Music, provides homes for musicians and other displaced citizens, as well as a recording studio, community center, performance hall, and after-school facilities. For his honorable contributions to the people and the culture of New Orleans, his prolific creative output, and his unshakably authentic representation of our city, the Board of Trustees and the faculties of Loyola University New Orleans present Joseph Harry Fowler Connick Jr. the degree of Doctor of Music, honoris causa.
Thanks. How y'all feeling all right today? Thank you. I got a bone to pick with you. Yeah, the first thing is I have major beard envy. That is a serious beard on your face. And the second thing, magna cum laude, really? I graduated summa cum later. Well, let me begin by thanking Loyola University, all of the faculty and staff, and especially Reverend Wiles. It's a great honor for me to be able to speak with you today. When Reverend Wiles called and asked to speak with me last year, I immediately thought that I was in trouble. I'm not sure why, but I think it goes back to my Jesuit education. I spent a lot of time in the principal's office in high school, and it was never for anything good, which explains the twitching and nausea when I was told that Father Wiles was on the phone. I mean, think about it, getting a call out of the blue from an extremely high-ranking, powerful Jesuit. This was not going to be a positive experience. Additionally, Father Wiles is one of the most educated men I have ever met. Have you seen his letterhead? He has so many degrees, it looks like an eye chart. I'm serious. He's like the smartest guy in the world. I'll never forget the phone call. Harry, he said, Loyola would like to present you with an honorary doctorate. You know, it's really hard to render me speechless, but I truly was speechless. Speechless as in without speech. And speechless is not what you want to be when you were specifically asked to give a speech. After the initial shock, I went on to explain to Father Wiles that although this would be indeed one of the greatest moments of my life, I'd have to take a little bit of time to think about it. I mean, a lot of changes would have to take place in order for me to be able to accept an honorary doctorate. People would now have to start calling me Mr. Dr. Harry Connick Jr. I'd have to change my business cards. Well, I'd have to get business cards, and then I'd have to change them. As a doctor, I'd now have to start dividing my time between the entertainment field and the medical field. As a doctor, it would now legally permit me to operate on people. By the way, I never got to do that when I was a doctor on Will and Grace or in Dolphin Tale. Yes, I was a doctor in Dolphin Tale, and the aquarium wouldn't even allow me to be alone in the pool with the dolphin. But as I thought about what Father Wiles was asking, I realized I was up for the challenge because, you know, that's what doctors do. At the end of the call, Father Wiles said, "Harry, I'm looking forward to hearing your address." I was like, "You can hear it right now, 472 Elm Street." After Father Wiles hung up on me, I had some time to think. I thought a lot about what I was going to say. See, today represents the most important day in your academic career. It's the culmination of all of your years of dedication and hard work. This is your graduation day. This is the moment. This is the perfect time for Father Wiles to turn the microphone over to a college dropout who didn't know what commencement address meant. Great choice, Reverend Wiles. Are y'all ready? Okay. Let me start out by telling you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised here in New Orleans. I grew up about 10 minutes away from here. You know where the levee broke in Lakeview? That's my old neighborhood. I live with my mom, my dad, and my big sister. My father, Harry Connick Sr., was the district attorney of New Orleans for 28 years. He is a devout Catholic and my greatest hero. He also recently celebrated his 90th birthday. He is here today. Hi, Dad. As a matter of fact, a lot of my family members are here today. My stepmom, Londa, some aunts and uncles, some cousins, my wife, Jill, my daughters, Georgia, Kate, and Charlotte. Granted, Jill and my girls only came to see if I would get booed like I did on American Idol, but they still came. Now, my mother, Anita, she died when I was 13. She was a Jewish woman. She was from New York. She would have been very proud seeing me on this stage today. My mom was a lawyer and a judge. It was crazy. My dad was the DA, and my mom was a judge. Imagine my delight when I was old enough to realize that my parents had the ability to both prosecute and imprison me. My teenage years were basically a combination of plea bargaining and community service. Now, my big sister, Susanna, is a psychiatrist and an internist, and she also serves as a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army. So, that's very impressive. So, just to be clear, both of my parents and my sister are highly educated, overachieving public servants. I, on the other hand, spend most of my time either singing songs to strangers or putting on makeup in a trailer pretending to be other people. By the way, those are the attributes of someone that my lawyer parents and psychiatrist sister would represent, but I digress. Now, although I'm not a graduate of Loyola, I have deep and meaningful connections here. My dad attended Loyola from 1947 until 1951. He then left for a few years to go to work in Morocco, where he met and married my mom. He came back to Loyola in 1957 and graduated in 1958 with a bachelor's degree in business administration. My father's brother, oh, there they are. I can smell the alcohol. See, the people in the arts department don't do that. My father's brother, Jimmy, and many of my cousins also went to school here. My first experience with Loyola came when I was about 8 years old. I used to take piano lessons at that beautiful white house on St. Charles Avenue across the street from the music building. I remember my mom telling everyone that I went to college because I was taking classes at the Loyola College of Music. Well, at 8 years old, I stretched the truth a little bit and told all of my third grade friends that I was in college. And just as I lied to them about going to college, I am now lying to you about having friends in the third grade. Now, I went to public school from kindergarten through the 5th grade. I went to Isidore Newman private school for 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. Then I went to Jesuit High School. The Blue Jays, again, I smell the alcohol. They got you seated way in the back. And it's not alphabetical. His name is like John Adams or something like that. Jesuit High School is where everything changed for me. It's where I first learned about St. Ignatius, about the Jesuits, and what they're all about. As you know, the Jesuits believe in a well-rounded education. They enlighten us about faith. They show us how God's purpose in our life coincides with our personal development. They teach us about discernment, the ability to decide between right and wrong. These are the decisions that we have to make every day. Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they keep us up at night. I am so proud of the time I spent under the tutelage of the Jesuits. The teachers that were at Jesuit High School during my time there probably won't recall my robust academic achievements and contributions. That's because there were none. But I must say that everyone was excited the day I graduated. I was excited because I could venture into the world with a solid foundation and an excellent education. Jesuit High School was excited because they would never have to see me again. After high school, I asked my dad if I could move to New York City. I wanted to pursue a career in music. Now, my mom had died by this point, and my sister was away in the military, so it was a hard decision for my dad to make. It was just the two of us at home. Now, as a father of 3 myself, I can now understand how difficult it must have been for my dad to consider sending me off to New York. But after a lot of discussion, he finally said I could go under one condition. I was horrified. I thought he was going to ask me to repeat my 4 years at Jesuit High School, but this time try to pass something. But his condition was much more appealing. He said I needed to go to Loyola for 1 semester. I was like, all I have to do is go to Loyola for 1 semester? How hard could that be? Well, as most of you probably know, really hard. I can't say I wasn't ambitious, though. I started my first and only semester here with 18 hours. I should have suspected that something was wrong when I started to have some difficulties in my philosophy class. I remember studying Plato's Republic for an exam. I ended up getting an F. I was completely shocked. When I approached my teacher with hopes of improving my grade, I said, "How can you possibly give me an F? This is a philosophy class, right?" Every single word I wrote down was my philosophy. He wasn't impressed. Loyola turned out to be a bit more challenging than I thought, so I decided to call upon a quality much admired among academics: creativity. By the end of the 3rd week, I had managed to creatively whittle my 18 hours down to 3. And the one class I had left was a piano class. Easy A, I thought. I'm not sure how, but I ended up getting a C in my piano class. Actually, I am sure how. I didn't practice, and technically, I didn't ever go. I was too busy playing gigs at Snug Harbor. And now that I think about it, why couldn't I have been graded for that? Anyway, after barely surviving a semester here, I decided to leave for New York, and I have no regrets. I'm glad I left when I did. Things worked out okay for me. But I have to admit, I'm a bit envious of you for sticking it out and receiving a degree from this incredible institution. And I have no words to describe how it feels to receive an honorary doctorate in music. Are you sleeping, Father? No, okay, I'm just kidding. No. Because I know the feeling, because that's what happens in my house every day when I talk. Everybody just seems to fall asleep. One of my daughters looked at me. I said, you seem so intent on everything I say. How do you do it? She says, I've learned how to sleep with my eyes open. My sister, who has 2 medical degrees, is somewhere shaking her head right now, wondering how this happened and who made this terrible mistake. No, she knows there was no mistake. She knows I put a lot of hard work and energy into figuring out how much cash to give Father Wiles for this opportunity. And I paid really good money for the doctorate and the robe. But I can hold my head high because you and I have something in common. It may have taken me 30 years longer than you, but all of us get degrees from Loyola today. So that's a little bit about me. Now I'd like to talk to you about you. Raise your hand if you know exactly what you're going to be doing 10 years from now. I mean, if you know exactly what your career is going to be. Many of you probably came to Loyola thinking you'd be perfectly clear on that by the time you graduated. I actually think it's great that some of you are still undecided. I think it's exciting. Some of the best careers I know are of people that change direction multiple times in their lives. You may not know right now what you want to spend your life doing, but you can decide right now what you want to spend your life being. Your education here has prepared you for just about any career choice you'll end up making. But here, today, if you haven't already, you can choose exactly what kind of person you are going to be. About 10 years ago, I was shooting a film down here. Every day on the way to set, I would drive under the Claiborne Bridge at Canal Street and see dozens of homeless people. Day after day, I saw the same scene, poor homeless folks living in cardboard boxes. It made me feel really bad inside, so one day I decided to do something about it. I got up extra early one morning, I went to McDonald's, I ordered about 100 Egg McMuffins, a whole bunch of coffee. I was excited to be able to do something for them. So I drove to the underpass, parked my car, and I took them the food. And as I was handing everything out, I noticed that nobody was saying anything. Nobody said hello, nobody said thank you. They all just kind of looked at me. I wasn't going there for gratitude, but it still surprised me. Now, after I left, I thought about that for weeks. I couldn't figure out why they just stared at me when I was handing them food. I wanted to tell someone about it. I remember learning at Jesuit that I should keep anything I did for charity to myself. Eventually, though, I was compelled to tell my dad, not to show off. I really wanted to get his opinion as to why everyone was so quiet. But I'd have to tell him about my good deed in order for him to give me his thoughts. And I thought it was worth it. My dad always has a great perspective on things. But as I told him the story, I actually became more interested in trying to impress him with my act of charity than getting his perspective. I was craving his approval. I couldn't wait for him to tell me how proud of me he was. At the end of my story, I said, "Can you believe that no one said thank you to me?" He looked at me and said, "I know. The same thing happened to me when I brought them food." My dad and I had the exact same experience. The difference is that he never mentioned it. Just as the Bible says to give your gifts in private, it also says in Matthew chapter 5, "Let your light shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." See, I've always struggled with that. It was always a contradiction to me. Are you supposed to tell about your good works or not? Isn't letting others see your good works just a personal desire for validation and for glory? St. Ignatius often spoke of something called vainglory. He struggled deeply with it throughout his life. But what is vainglory? The definition is excessive pride in one's own achievements. So how are you supposed to let your light shine if you have to do your good deeds in private? How can we try to change the world without giving ourselves credit and telling everybody about our accomplishments? The answer, to me, is intent. Why are you helping? Why are you volunteering? Why are you giving your time and effort? Are you volunteering truly to help others? Is the reason you're doing community service really to serve the community? If those are your reasons, there's no need to tell anybody anything. You'll be helping people, you'll be preserving their dignity by not talking about it, and you'll be going to bed at night just knowing that you've done something good for someone. And that should be motivation enough. No need to brag about it. But if telling people about what you're doing can help those in need, if the primary reason for your shouting from the rooftops is to help your cause, that's a different story. That's not vainglory. That's pulling people in. That's increasing how much good can be done. That's letting your light shine. And your shining light will help brighten the path of others. That's the first thing I wanted to tell you. Help others. Take the time. It's what we do. The second thing is about you. It's about achieving personal greatness. We all have different definitions of greatness. Reaching goals, overcoming adversity, making money, having a family, being strong of will and faith. There's a phrase written on the tombstone of St. Ignatius. It's a quote that was written by a young, unknown Flemish Jesuit. I'm sure you've heard it before. It's super heavy, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about what it means and how it applies to all of us. It's Latin, and it says, non corricere a maximo, contenere tamen a minimo, divinum est. The basic translation is, not being afraid of the greatest challenge and yet being concerned with the smallest details. That is the path to holiness. If you work hard and pay attention to the smallest details of your work, your relationships, your faith, you'll find that over time you will have created a lot of great things, things of worth, things of substance and quality. If you focus on the minutia of every single step of your life, one day you'll look back over your shoulder and see the great distance you've traveled and all of your accomplishments. You will have created a broad, strong base and a meaningful life. So keep your eye on the prize, but keep your heart in the game. Are y'all fans of Pope Francis? I am too. He's a very deep thinker. Pope Francis said, "The wisdom of discernment redeems the necessary ambiguity of life and helps us find the most appropriate means which do not always coincide with what looks great and strong." In other words, Pope Francis is telling us that large results can be obtained through small steps. It's all about the little things, the daily grind, the little prayers throughout the day, the I love yous. All of this can coincide with your loftiest goals and your biggest dreams. Are y'all good at multitasking? If you're graduating today, you're really good at multitasking. I mean, he got a magna cum laude and grew that beard at the same time. I think that's what Pope Francis and the epitaph of St. Ignatius are telling us. We have to multitask. We have to work hard for ourselves and at the same time, make time for each other. We have to be brave and strong and at the same time, show humility, patience, and forgiveness. We have to think big and at the same time, pay attention to the little things. All of you in this room have the potential for greatness. You've already shown it by graduating from one of the finest institutions in the country. But now comes the real test. The Bible says, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Now, as a piano player, that's pretty tough. But in the sense of getting the most out of your life, we need to show that we are spiritually and morally ambidextrous. The two hands of our conscience need to be able to work independently. Your right hand can reach for success, while your left hand reaches out to help those in need. Your right hand can grasp personal achievement, while your left hand can grasp the concept of magnanimity or generosity. Your right hand can hold on to your hopes and your dreams, while your left hand holds you accountable for all of your actions toward others. I hope that all of you will go out into the world and become hugely successful. I hope that you will be able to provide for your families and make them more than comfortable. I hope you'll give attention to the smallest of details and give significance to what others may deem inconsequential. I hope that you'll be spiritually and morally ambidextrous and that you'll be great in this world. You'll be great, but you can still see the smallest needs of our brothers and sisters. You'll be great, but you will never fail to realize the importance of attention to detail. You will be great because you will clutch the possibility of hope with one hand and help to clear the obstacles of the poor, the hungry, the sick, and underserved with the other. And most importantly, at the end of each day, your right hand and your left hand will come together and give thanks to God for your faith, your family, your friends, and the infinite blessings you've received. I'll leave you with one last thing. The Bible says, to whom much is given, much is expected. Class of 2016, you have been given a lot, and a lot is expected of you. You can do it, and you will go as far as you want to go. I am so, so proud of you. Be kind, be humble, be great. Thank you, Loyola. Thank you, Reverend Wiles. And congratulations to the class of 2016.
Thank you, Mr. Connick. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Mrs. Allison Plaisance, Alumni Association